So today I thought I would attempt to put together the iCraft shadow frames. Now this looks fairly straightforward. It has instructions, or at least a diagram, on the back, and it shows you that it's two pieces, and basically I'm not sure if you make two different sizes or one goes inside the other one. I guess we'll find out. A lot of detail here on the diagram on the back with the measurements, but I have found these diagrams on the back are not very reliable. Now I've already opened this up, and inside I got three frames, one in craft, one in black, and one in white. And I think for the sake of today's video we'll put together the one in the craft, so we'll set the other two aside. That's one thing I do like about these iCraft kits. You get a lot for the money. I mean, I paid $10.99 Canadian for this kit, and I'm getting three frames. And by the looks of things, you're actually getting 6 frames. It looks like, according to the diagram on here, you're getting a large one and a smaller one. And it almost looks like maybe you're supposed to put the two together, sort of layer them. I don't know. Maybe that's a possibility. It says the ready-to-use frame template. This set contains one set of 2 pieces, each of black, white, and craft cardstock. One thing it didn't come with, though, was an instruction sheet. And as I've said in some of my other iCraft videos, some of the kits do come with an instruction sheet, some do not. Now, I haven't gone to their YouTube channel to see if they have a tutorial for this. And I don't think I'm going to have to. I think this one's fairly straightforward, but we'll soon find out. So let's put this one together. We're just going to set this aside for now. We may have to refer to it later. And here we have the 2 sizes. So I'm assuming this is the large one, this is the smaller one. So let's put the larger one together. Now you can see, I hope, on here on the video, there are score lines all over this. So I'm just assuming we need to, first of all, fold on the score line. So let's go to this side, and I've got my bone folder out here, and let's just see what happens when I fold these. And of course the bone folder is an excellent tool to have with one of these kits, because you do want your folds or your creases to be very crisp. And I do like the fact that these kits do come pre-scored. That helps a great deal, especially when they don't supply you with any instructions. Okay, so there's one side. Now, I'm still not completely sure how this should go together. But I do have out my double-sided tape for this as well. Now this is kind of a strange looking cut here, and I would assume that these probably fold in some manner to lock the corners. I guess we'll soon find out once I have everything folded along the score lines. Okay, one last one to do. Okay, so here's what I've got. Let's refer to the picture on the back, this one showing the frames down here. So it looks like they have mitered corners, so let's see. Okay, when you fold the end pieces up like this, you've got a little hollow here, so I'm thinking that maybe these just tuck in . Okay, well that's simple enough. The only thing I'm concerned about, though, is how these will stay together. bottom one seems to be pretty good. The top one doesn't. I'm wondering if I have this creased enough. Let's just do these again. Make sure they've got a really good crease to them. It's a little awkward. Okay, for the most part, I don't like this gap, but kind of wondering if I need to put my tape along the bottom edge of those. Okay, let's just open these up. And let's see, if that one goes under, over like that. So if I put some tape along this edge, let's just see here. I'll take out my 1/4 inch double-sided tape. And just apply it along here. And get out my pokey tool, because this is what I use to peel the backing off, because I don't have any nails. And let's just see, let's just carefully fold this under. And what I'm doing is I'm lining it up with this fold on the back here. You probably can't see that very well, it's very awkward. Okay, I'm going to do that same thing to this other piece, the other end. Oops. Okay, so fold that under. Just use the bone folder to get in there. Press that down. Okay, now let's see what happens. Okay, the other side. So I'm kind of bringing them up a little bit on an angle. Okay, that does work a little better. I'm still not that happy with the edges, but you know something? I think I could probably put washi tape around those edges, and that would hold those in a little better. It's not too bad. Okay, so that's the large one. So I'm assuming the small one goes together the same way. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll be right back to show you. Okay, so I put the smaller one together in the same manner as I put the large one together. You can see here the corners on this have a bit of a gap, but I am thinking that once I have it decorated, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the edges and things like that, but I think, you know, I get an embellishment or something on here, it's going to hold those in a little better. And like I said, maybe some washi tape on some of these corners, because I don't like that gap that's showing up there. But there we have two frames. Now, what size are these frames if you were to put a picture in them? So it looks like, yeah, these aren't going to fit a standard picture. You're going to have to basically cut down your picture, because this is about 3.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall, and this one is 2.5 inches by about 4.5 inches. So you'd have to cut down your picture if you're going to put in a picture. But these could make interesting shadow boxes. And, you know, I'm thinking here you could make a whole array. You know how you see those ones that are stuck together like that? But if you put these other ones together, you could probably make a very interesting display, and I might do that with this. We'll see. But for now, they went together fairly easily. As I said, I'm not really happy with the gap that's on here. Seems to be the top ones that have more of a gap than the bottom, but no, the bottom has it too. Can you put it inside that? Well, why would you do that? Off to the side like that. There's potential here. Potential here. So we'll see. So in the next segment, I will start the decorating process, getting my background papers and things like that on this. So in this step, I'm going to do something a little different for decorating the frame around the frame. And I've already done something here. This is the one I used the crackle paste on, and I've just gone over it with a Distress Oxide Walnut Stain ink. Just to bring out some of the crackles, and I don't know if you can see these on camera, but they are here. And it gives it a bit of a vintage look. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to now tackle this one. This is the one I put the texture paste on through a stencil, and you can see here that it's all raised in around here. And I'm just going to have some fun with color on this from my Delusion sprays. I've covered up my work surface here to protect it because these sprays go all over the place. Now, I have not used these in a long time, so I have no idea how they're going to spray. And I think they need a good shake up as well. So we'll shake them all up. And I grabbed 4 colors, and as I said, I don't know how this is going to turn out. So I'm going to start with, actually I should start with the lightest color. I'll start with this is Pure Sunshine. And just as I suspected, they are not going to spray. Okay, so Pure Sunshine is not going to work. This is what happens with these. Let's try the Calypso Teal. Well, that one's going to work. And then this is Pomegranate Seed. And it's going to work. And then this one is After Midnight, which is a bit of a purpley. And I'm going to see, this is what I mean about these. They're so messy. They always have been. So I'm going to grab a baby white, and I'm just going to do a little blotting. That's kind of pretty. I think I need to lighten it up a little bit. So here's another, this is Squeezed Orange. So let's see if this one will work. It does, but I don't know if I like the effect. So I'm just going to blot a little bit here. And, you know, I'm tempted to leave it just as it is. But I'm not sure. Now, I just noticed something. I'm wondering if there's a bit of a resist on these. Sort of. Okay, I think I should hit it with the heat gun and just dry this layer before I do anything more to it. So as it dries, that sheen that was on it before is disappearing. It's becoming more of a matte finish. And actually, there's a little bit of white from the texture paste and the gesso popping up through this, and I'm kind of liking that because it's kind of giving it a distressed look, and I kind of like the distressed look. But I'm thinking now, I wonder if I should take some of my rubs, if they're not all dried up, and go over it with those as well to highlight sort of the raised textured paste sections that I did through the stencil. Just another couple of seconds with the dryer. It almost has a plaster look to it right now. Okay, I think I'm pretty much dry. Alright, so I'm going to go and look for some rubs, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've grabbed a little pot of bronze artsy rub. It's a sort of a metallic rub, and this one's one of the few that I have left that have not dried up. And I tested it a little bit on the corner here, and I do like the effect that I'm getting. So I'm just going to put a little bit more on my finger and just rub it in around here. And it's just kind of adding a bit of a patina to this, and it's bringing out some of those little designs that were in the textured paste that went through the stencil. So I'm just going to take a baby wipe here and just kind of spread it out a little further. Kind of thinning it out a little bit. It is a messy stuff, as you can see. And I also used it on the other little frame off camera, and I just put it in along here, and it's you know, kind of bringing out some of the crackle paste that's on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a dry cloth, and I'm just going to buff it a little bit. Okay, so that just adds another layer of dimension to this, I think. And now, I don't know if I'm going to do anything else to it. This one I've got, the sides are kind of unfinished, but you want to know something? I kind of like them like that, and I think I might leave them like that. These ones I did do the sides on this, so that's okay. I'm just thinking, what else does it need? It almost, this one especially, could use a shadow effect, but I need something darker. And I'm just looking here in my stash to see what I can come up with. And yeah, I think I'll have to do a little hunt here, so I'll be back. So I got some Memento black ink. This is a permanent ink. I tried to use StazOn, but the StazOn pads are all dried up, which they dry up very quickly. So, you know, they're a great ink, but don't let them sit around for too long. And all I'm doing is I'm just lightly going over this just to dull it down a little bit. Again, it's kind of an antiquing here. Just to make it look kind of old. I'm just going around the edges to give them a little bit more definition. And I think I'll take this opportunity should just go around these edge pieces here. Okay, I think that might be enough of that. And I'm just going to take a baby wipe. And this is a permanent ink, but I'm just going to... Oh, it's supposed to be a permanent ink. That was not good. Ah, you know why? Because the dilutions underneath is not permanent. So, before I go and don't use the baby wipe, I think I can save this side if I dry it a little bit. That was a mistake. Don't do that. Now that side's a little lighter than the other side, and I don't like that, so I'm just going to go over it again with some of this Memento black ink. There we go. That's better. Okay, I'm liking that as a base. There's going to be other elements I'm going to put on this. I don't know what they are yet, but I'm wondering how this would look on this one too, because it's a bit shiny. So I'm just going to dull it down a little bit with the black ink. So I've got kind of a grunge effect happening here. Let's do the edges. This is a messy process. As you can tell, I'm getting it on my hands. That's why I've got this protective sheet of newsprint underneath me. And I'm not going to throw that sheet out, by the way. That could be the basis for another project. Okay, stop while I'm ahead. I'm going to leave these as they are now. So I've got the frames have a layer of embellishing on them, and in the next segment what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with these frames. I'm debating whether I should mount one off to the side here or up here or something, leave them separate, whatever. This one's kind of bothering me a little bit because actually I don't really like it right at the moment, but maybe that'll change when I give it some more embellishing to it. So that'll be in the next segment. Okay, so now I'm going to do the final embellishing of these frames, and you can see that I put a picture in each one of these. This is actually pictures of Walter, and this is when we were in Melbourne a couple of years ago, Melbourne, Australia, and we were looking at some street art here, and we were looking at some more formal art in a local art gallery here. So I cut these two pictures out so they'll fit into the frame, and I've just put a little double-sided tape, which I see may or may not be holding on to this very well, in each of those, and those are my bases. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate the outside of the frame. Now I'm not really sure how to attempt this. I have already given both of these frames a treatment, as you know from the last segment, and I think I'm probably going to be covering up most of this. But that's the nature of mixed media, right? You do things in layers, and don't get too attached to one layer because it probably will get covered up. So I'm not that attached to these two layers. They're probably going to get covered up. What am I going to cover them up with, you may ask? Well, I have in front of me an assortment of things. I have a big box of wine corks. No, I did not drink all these bottles of wine. Well, actually, that's not all of them. When I say I have a big box, I have a big box, of course, which someone gave me. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. I have a bunch of these little gold plastic buttons that I've cut the shanks off of that I think are kind of interesting. And I have been using sort of gold throughout these, so I may use these. And then I got this big box of beads in all kinds of colors. So I think I'm going to do sort of a layered effect. I'm going to use the corks on the bigger frame, and I'll use the buttons on the smaller frame, and then I'm going to use as filler some of these beads, just randomly select them and see what I get from that. And then after I've done that, I'm just going to fill in any spaces with, I'm thinking right now, maybe some flowers, because those are sort of my go-to, or whatever. We'll see how this turns out. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. This is the fun of doing something like this, because you start with a basic idea and it grows from there. At least I hope it will grow in a positive manner. I have my glue gun off to the side heating up, and I will be using some of my famous Gorilla Glue that I love so much for this, for sticking things down, especially items like this. They will need a good glue, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to get started, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done so far. So I've glued down some corks and some of the buttons on these two frames. I didn't give this a lot of thought. I just went with whatever was grabbing me at the moment. So I ended up cutting a couple of the corks in half and placing them on the corners, and then I have these other ones full size here. These two buttons I just threw on here. Like I said, I didn't think a lot about this, and I see there's a glare here. And on this one, I just threw some more buttons here, and I found these two little things in my stash. I just stuck them on. I haven't really been thinking too much about it. I am thinking of giving each one of these a title, and before I fill in the space, this one says Stay Curious, so I think I'm going to put it there. And then I have this little one by Tim Holtz. It's a metal one. It says Embrace Imperfection, and I think I want to put it right there. So I'm going to put a little dark ink around the edges of this one, and I'm just going to glue these down, and then I've got to think about something to do with these corks. Do I want to leave them as looking like corks in cork color, or do I want to glitz them up a little bit with maybe a little gold paint or something like that? I have to think about that, and I'll come back and show you what my decision has been. So what I'm going to do, and again, this could be a big mistake, but I'm not sure. I did a little experimentation off camera on one cork with these colors. And these are the Luscious Pigment powders from Indigo Blue, and I had to order them from the UK, and they are pure pigment that you just add water to, and they give you some really brilliant colors. And what I'm mixing them on is this little palette here. The thing about these particular paints is if you put them in a palette like this and you only need just a tiny little amount of the pigment, add a little water. I just misted water on top of these, and then you've got a lot of paint. But when you're done with these, let this sit and dry. Don't clean it out, and there's a cover I have for this as well, and they will reactivate if you spritz a little water on them. So these are fairly pricey, especially if you have to get them from the UK, and I live in Canada, so I had shipping on top of that, but they're going to last forever because you use so very little of them. So I'm just going to take a paintbrush right here, and I'm just going to dab color everywhere. I'm going to start with a little bit of the blue, and I'm just applying it randomly. Now, it seems to be beating up a little bit on the corks, and that's to be expected because these corks are probably treated because they are, or were, in wine bottles. And I'm not trying to cover all the corks completely. Run out of paint here. I'm just adding little dabs of color here and there. And as I said, I have 4 different colors. I'm out of shot here that I'm going to do. I'm essentially just, I'm not really brushing it on, I'm just sort of patting it on. And I think what I'll have to do is probably dry these between applications. Okay, so I'll just get out my dryer here. Now, of course, as I said, these are a water-soluble paint. They're basically a watercolor. And, of course, they will reactivate when they get wet. At least I think they will. I know they do when they're in the little paint palette. And I'm not going to be that thorough in my drawing because I don't mind if the colors blend a little together. Now they are absorbing a little bit into the cork, I notice, as I dry them. But because I don't want to cover the corks up completely, I want you to see that these are actually corks. Then I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so let's add another color. I kind of pick colors that are already in this picture. So the greens, the teals, that kind of thing. I'm just having fun, just dabbing paint on with no real rhyme or reason. Now remember what I said at the beginning of this segment? You will cover up layers. You always do when you're doing mixed media projects. So don't get attached to any one layer. Even if it gets completely covered up, you'll still know it's there. But it's all part of the process. Okay, I'm going to continue doing this with my other colors, and I'll be back and show you what this looks like. Okay, so here's what the corks look like now that I've applied some of that pigment. So it gives it a little bit of a color, and these pigments do have a bit of shimmer to them, so there's a bit of a shine. I'm kind of liking it, but it's still nowhere near finished yet. You notice that I did put on this little saying here, says stay curious, and I put embrace imperfection on this one. I want to get those on before I add more elements, just in case I don't have any place to really stick them afterwards. So I'm going to continue with this frame for a minute. I'm going to put this one over to the side, and I've got my big box of beads in here, and I'm thinking that I'm just going to stick beads every which way. So all I'm going to do, and I might need tweezers for this, and do I have a pair of tweezers handy? Maybe not. Well, maybe I don't need them. We'll see. If I need them, I'll stop the video and I'll get them when I do need them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue gun, and I'm just going to put a little bead of glue right here. I hate the strings that come off of glue guns. And I'm not even going to worry about color or shape or size. I'm just going to put these in around and we'll see what happens. The glue gun works great for this kind of thing. In fact, I'm thinking I may put a few just up here, and I think I need a new glue stick. Oops. Let's see, that there, and here. Sort of cluster them around. Just see what I get as I work on this. Okay, I'm having a little problem with my glue gun staying up. It's in a little stand. It's off camera, you can't see it, but... So you see, you get the idea. I'm just clustering these in various parts of the frame. I am covering up what I did before, and I said don't get attached, because that is going to happen when you're playing with mixed media. Okay, so there's one cluster. I think I'm going to, I'm doing something here. I tend to go for symmetry, and I'm going to go, so I'm going to take this little cluster, and it won't be the same beads, but I'm going to put them in sort of the same pattern over here, and I'll do some more around and I'll come back and we'll look at it when I get that part done, because you don't want to watch glue dry. Okay, so my frames are done, and I'm kind of happy with the way they turned out. And this didn't take really all that long. And the one reason why it doesn't take that long is because I really didn't think about it. I just went with the flow. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty nice because I really didn't have that much of a plan. All I knew is that I wanted to use some corks, I wanted to use some buttons, and I wanted to use some beads. So here's the final outcome. This little frame I think is very elegant looking. It looks like it's a metal frame now with all these things on it, but it's not, of course, as you know. And on this one, all I added in addition to the beads, corks, and buttons were some little flower stems here and some little flower buds there just to finish it off. So I think both of these turned out kind of attractive. Now, they might not be to everybody's taste, but I had fun making them. And really, that's all that matters. So that ends this project with the iCraft shadow frames.